I'm not going to start with any easy questions.
What would you do if you couldn't fail?
I was vulnerable in the sense of I was just who I was.
In my journey as an entrepreneur, I really found who I am as a human.
I was much more emotionally available to everyone because I was much more balanced.
Finding the grace and the humor in the balance of it all.
Whatever happens in the gut happens in the brain, and whatever happens in the brain happens in the gut.
Do you have a specific morning routine?
I was able to sort of reset my nervous system by getting involved with the cold.
Allow ourselves to have imperfection.
Absolutely had mentors, absolutely 100% had coaches.
A wake-up call to me that I could not try to be something I'm not.
Seeing results of just isolating the breathing was having these tremendous impacts on my physiology.
Work at a gratitude practice.
What the hell am I doing? Can I really do this? Is this really worth it?
90+% of the decisions that we make today actually stem from fear.
When was I proud of myself today?
I think for me, it's really inspiring people to step out. And you don't have to step all the way out.
Then there are these other moments of magic and joy.
If we can just push into discomfort, we actually find that on the other end, there's a lot of benefit.
What's your purpose?
Nothing starts without a plan. Nothing ever goes to plan.
I think we're going to see a new realm of healing that ultimately wasn't available to us.
If we can bring a practice into our lives that helps us be more vulnerable.
So much of entrepreneurship, I truly believe, to anybody on this call is grit.
I got involved with Wim. I just love the guy. He's just a great human. When people are on the path, they shine.
We so often convert things into flaws as opposed to strengths.
We all deserve to be happy, healthy, and strong.
I'm so thrilled that this content is getting out there, that you guys are promoting bold and vulnerable message and aspirations for people, because I hope that we can all really live that every day.
Hey, this is Jessica.
And Svetlana, and you're listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast,
Where we aim to inspire others to live authentically through sharing the bold and vulnerable stories of peak performers across a variety of industries.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast, where we talk about raw and engaging stories meant to empower and inspire our audience, you, to take a leap of faith and follow your dreams. Today's conversation is one of my favorites with such a wonderful, beautiful soul. His name is Kavon Massenburg. Kavon is a speaker, entrepreneur, and the CEO and founder of his apparel company, My Purpose Is. Kavon has inspired and electrified audiences across the country with one simple message: find your purpose and enhance your life. His story to success is riveting as he joins us to talk about being a survivor of gun violence, getting shot in the jaw, spending time in jail, and turning his entire life around to become the entrepreneur and success that he is today. It's amazing. Now he's partners with some of the biggest impact makers of our generation. He recently partnered with the company Ideallab, where he gets to work with people like Cohen, Tony Robbins, Guber, and so many more amazing people. He was also recently featured in Gary Vaynerchuk's video known as The Best Kept Secret, and he really is the best kept secret. And I'm so excited for you guys to join us today to listen to his crazy, amazing story. Now, let's just get started.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's been an amazing journey. This last kind of 16 months have been really life-changing for myself. So to kind of take it back to the beginning, again, my name is Kavon. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. So from the Midwest, grew up there my whole life. Early into my life, I got involved in the streets at a young age. So when I was 15 years old, I went to juvenile for a firearm and a bulletproof vest. When I was 18 years old, that's when the most life transforming event took place. And when I was 18 years old, I got shot in the head. I was at a party leaving, and one moment I'm kind of looking out, and the next moment I'm on the ground looking up at the ceiling. And I was just wondering what was going on. I felt as if I just got hit in my head with a baseball bat. And as I'm feeling around my body, I just feel blood coming down. And I start filling up to my face, and I just feel more blood on my hands, and I feel like a puddle. And in that moment, I thought I was going to die. And I realized that I had been shot, but I didn't know where. So I was blessed to make it through the situation, and I was only in the hospital for about 4 to 5 days. The only thing that happened was the bullet fractured my jaw, so it went in underneath my earlobes on both sides. So underneath my earlobe, it went in from the right side and came out to the left side underneath my earlobes on both sides. And the only thing that happened was the bullet fractured my jaw. So my mouth was wired shut for about a month and a half. But that was it. I was only in the hospital for like 4 to 5 days, like extremely blessed. But at that time, I didn't realize the severity of what had happened. So I kept in the streets, kept hustling, and until when I was 21 years old, I found myself in jail. I lost over 6 figures, was facing up to 10 years in prison, had open cases in 4 different counties in Indiana, all for drugs and firearms. And that was kind of like the pivotal point in my life of being in jail. So I spent about a year in jail. I got out, and that's kind of where I got on the path that I'm on now, and eventually went to the Tony Robbins event, and that's where we met at.
Wow. Oh my God. When I hear your story, just the like getting shot and it only, hitting the jaw, like it's like, oh my God, God, angels, you're just protected and so blessed. And I'm just so grateful that you're around, and like still here, obviously. Also made me think of Kanye's song Through the Wire because you said you had your mouth wired.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I've heard Kanye, I've heard 50 Cent. I've heard, yeah.
But wow, that's so crazy. What I'm curious, like when did you decide like, okay, things need to change? Because there's always that moment of decision of this isn't working anymore.
100%. For me, that moment was when I was in jail. So I'm in jail and I'm seeing like 2 of my friends got killed, and they were on the news for getting killed when I was in jail. I have a lot of friends that's been killed, a lot of friends in prison to this day. And it was when I was in jail that I just kept asking myself, like, why am I here? Like, how did I really get here? It's not like I was like a bad kid. I graduated high school early. I had like a 3.4 GPA. I just used my skills and channeled it in the wrong way with my leadership skills and everything. So I just kept asking myself, like, why me? Why am I still here? And when I got out, and I said, if I make it through this situation, then I like would never go back. I've been so close to throwing my life away in prison. I've been so close to death that I was like, this is just the final straw. For me, I absolutely hate not making progress. So being in jail, my life was like on pause while the whole world life was on play. And it was just like a year of my life that I didn't make a lot of progress. And I was just like, I can't spend my life like this. So it's when I got out of jail that I started diving back into personal development. And I remember seeing guys like Tony Robbins and Les Brown and Eric Thomas, all these big motivational speakers on stage. And as I'm seeing them, like one day I had a vision, and I just like seen myself like on stage speaking in front of like thousands of people. So that's what got me on this path of speaking around the country. And I've done a bunch of speaking engagements and my business and everything. But it was that moment of being in jail that I was just like, Kavon, no more. And it's like, it was crazy because things were looking so bad. But once in my mind, I like committed to like never going back, right? Like that's when everything, and then when I let go of all the pain of betrayal and all the hurt and everything that came with that, that's when things start taking the turn for the better. And that's when my whole situation got better.
I want to kind of take it back because I feel like you so nonchalantly said that you got shot in the face. And I was listening to the beginning of your story, and I just want to know kind of what that feeling was like. Did that hurt? Did you have adrenaline? Were you in shock? Like how were you feeling?
Yeah, we need to get back to that because like why was that why was that not the pivotal point of like, why wasn't it the shot, but it was the
Right.
I'm curious because it was the same thing for my boyfriend because he was heavily addicted to drugs, like almost died, like all this stuff. And he had a major car accident and that wasn't enough. Like that was like not the pivotal point for him.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'll answer both of you guys' questions. So it wasn't for me. So I'll answer your question first, Lana. When everybody goes through their own amount of pain before somebody wakes up and realizes that this is not what I want to do. So like I've heard people say like if I would have went to juvenile, I would have never went back, right? And then this person, and so it's so easy. So that's why for me, I learned not to judge somebody off of whatever they're going through and they're still not learning. Like you hear all the time, how could you still be doing this? How could you still be with this person? How could you still be doing this? And this person has hurt you and this situation is good and you just keep going back. For myself, if I pointed a finger at somebody, I legit would have like the 3 fingers pointed back at me. Because like you just said, like you've been to jail. I went to jail 3 times before the 4th time. And the 4th time is when it's been so much. So for me, it just wasn't my time, I guess. It sounds so crazy, but it was just, when I talk to like big business people and everything, the easiest way for me to relate to somebody is to say, okay, so if you're an investor and you make one bad investment, you're not just going to stop investing. You're just going to take it as part of the game. And for me in that mindset, that was just part of the game that just came with the territory. So yeah, I hear that all the time. People think that was like the pivotal moment, but it wasn't. But in hindsight, me actually reflecting back on and realizing like how blessed I was to make it through that situation, then that was the pivotal point. But that was a pivotal moment, but just not the time, right? So that moment is what ultimately clicked and was like, Kavon, you're here for a reason. Like you survived. But that time, it just wasn't that time in my life. I was 18 years old at that time. To answer your question, Jessica, like how did it feel? Take you back to that moment. In that moment, this is the biggest thing that it taught me. And this is what I speak about on stage also, is that in that moment of being face to face with death, the first thing that came to my mind was my mother, my loved ones, and the time I spent with them or the lack of time I spent with them. So often in time, we get caught up in everyday life that we forget about the ones that are most important. And we'll say that we have work and we have school and we have all of this, or you'll get into an argument with a sister or brother. And that often that one little argument or a best friend, you realize that you haven't talked to that person in months. And I want everybody to listen to like, that doesn't matter. When in that face of death, you're not going to be thinking about how your sister wore your clothes without asking. You guys got into an argument. Like that's not what you're going to be thinking about. All you're going to be thinking about is the time you spend with her or the lack of time you spend with any family member. So that was the first thing I thought about was my loved ones, my friends. And have you ever like heard somebody say that, like when faced with a life or death situation, like time slows up, like time slows. It's like so true. Like every memory was just replaying in my mind, every replay, just thinking about my mom and everything. And the second thing I thought about was, is this how I'm gonna be remembered? At that time, I was 18 years old. I was just being like an 18-year-old young black man shot and killed, just another statistic. And they said that your love for one generation talked about for 2 and then forgotten after that. That means that your one generation is like underneath you. So if you have kids, they'll remember you, right? And then if they have kids, like great grandkids, like they'll remember, oh, great grandma type of thing, or grandma. But a lot of times you don't remember past that, your great grandparents. So like, could you name all? It's 8. You have 8 great grandparents. Could you name all 8 of your great grandparents? Either one of you, Lana or Jessica.
I can't because
you both are like shake your head.
No, I knew my great grandparents on my dad's side because I met them, my great grandmas, both of them, but not my great grandfathers. They passed. But thankfully and luckily, I was able to spend some time with them up until I was like 15 years old. So that was amazing.
But not on your mom's side.
No, they passed earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think that you don't know their names? Is it because they passed?
Oh no, I know their names and I know their stories because they have.
So you know all 8. You know all 8 names.
Yeah. Well, no. Never mind.
So it's cool.
I think I know like 6.
That's, first of all, that's amazing. Like people normally don't even know half. I only know like 2 or 3. But so you have to ask yourself, like, why don't I know these names? But I know Martin Luther King, I know Einstein, I know all of these people. And the reason is not because you didn't meet them. Like, so I speak to kids a lot. kids would be like, oh, I never met him or this. I'd be like, but you know Martin Luther King? Did you ever meet Martin Luther King? And it's because these people, they had massive contribution and left a legacy for people to remember them by. And that's the most important thing that I realized, that in the face of death, I would not have, at that time in my life, didn't do anything significant for people to remember me by. So I tell people that the most important thing is, for me, is purpose. The only way to leave a legacy is to have massive contribution. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have massive contribution in an area that you're not passionate about, or that's not your purpose. So it's about like finding your purpose and using that purpose to have massive contribution and leave a legacy for the world to remember you by.
I love that. I love that, like, you talk about like legacy and just those 2 key points where it's like the first thing you thought about was your family and like, you know, how am I going to be remembered, you know? And like when you brought up how time slows down, like I've experienced that before when I had like a scare at the doctor's, and I just remember literally feeling like I wasn't in my body and everything just went like super slow motion, you know? Obviously it's not like getting shot, but you know, it's scary. It's like, what the hell? But I'm curious. So like kind of like segueing into my purpose, let's talk about that. Like my purpose is.
Oh, it's when I had that vision of like speaking on stage, right? That's why I was like, Kavon, that's what you're here for. That's what you went through, everything you went through for. Like, that's what you're here for. And I was like, why am I just not thinking about what my purpose is? I'm 23 years old. Growing up, we get asked, where are we going to go to school? Where are we going to work at? What college do we want to attend? But nobody ever asks, what are you here for? Like, what is your purpose? And it's such an important question, but 9 times out of 10, you can't know the answer to a question you've never been asked. So I took it upon myself to really change that narrative and start challenging people to figure out what that is for them. What is that deeper meaning to life for them? So that's kind of where the shirt came in at. I've thought about the shirt. I was just thinking about like, how can I get this message of purpose? And then that's when I thought about the shirt that says like, my purpose is, with the box. I have it on. Yeah, my purpose is, with the box underneath, and you just use a Sharpie to write in whatever your purpose is. So I started this t-shirt last March, about a year ago, and it sold in like 7 different countries, like ASAP. Like no team, no money for marketing, no advertisement, no anything, right? It was amazing. It's been amazing. And now I'm actually like in the final stages, like legit final stages. Like it should be done maybe next 48 hours, 72 hours of closing a big time deal and partnership and everything. That's actually what I moved out to New York for. So it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Shout out to him. His name is Jonathan Cohen. He and Trillions team. He has he's a venture capitalist. He has a incubator accelerator type of program here in New York City. And it's called the Trillions Company, but they just closed the deal to partner up with a company called Ideallab NY. And Ideallab NY, shareholders in Ideallab. And so you've been to Business Mastery, so you've seen him speak. He speaks at Business Mastery. His name is Jonathan Cohen. He speaks at the Business Mastery. But so I came out here to live with him and learn mentorship from him and learn business from him. A really brilliant person, so fun, so like young spirit. I love him to death. It's like my brother now. But I'm partnering up with him. So shareholders in his company is like Tony Robbins is a shareholder, Peter Guber is a shareholder. It just teamed up with Bill Gross from New York City, just a rock star team of people. And closing a partnership to team up with them to really take my brand to the next level. So it's a lot more, that's kind of like a general type of thing. It's a lot more involved. But so yeah, so I'm teaming up with these just amazing group of guys who I obviously believe in 1,000%, and they believe in me. Alan Morgan is Jonathan's partner. He's brilliant. And yeah, so they believed in me, and they're taking a chance on me and everything. So it's been amazing. It's been amazing. So it's a lot more to come. This is just the start of everything.
That's amazing.
Well,
congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
So amazing. So what has it been like to start that kind of company from scratch? Like, what's that process been like for you, and how did you get started? And, you know, right from, you know, getting out of jail to like starting and making moves, what happened? What was the transition?
So for me, so that's kind of like a two-part question. I didn't actually start my business right when I got out of jail. I got out of jail in, oh wow, we're in 29. Okay, so what was that? 20, man, time is flying. So I got out of jail. I got sentenced to 3 years on house arrest, right? So that's 2017, 2016. So I got out in June of 2016. I got sentenced to 17 months on house arrest. So getting out of jail, I committed to not going back to the streets or anything like that. So I just started working at like warehouses, and I did like a janitor job, just doing anything that I could get hired for. I spent 17 months on house arrest, which took me up to a Day with Destiny. I got off house arrest 2 weeks before Day with Destiny, Tony Robbins event where I met Lana at. So that was December of 2017. So past that is when I really was able to start really get started on my life, because I was on probation, but I didn't have constraints to the house, and I didn't have certain guidelines. So I could like start a business and everything now. But for anybody starting a business, I'll say the biggest thing that has been for me is just believing in myself. Like, number one is to believe in Kavon. Everybody told me I was crazy saying that when I said I wanted to speak. Nobody from where I'm from says they want to be an inspirational speaker. And nobody from where I'm from talked about like starting a t-shirt and things of that nature. So it was a lot of just believing in myself. Like I stopped working. I took my last $1,000. I purchased the LLCs and my business and bought like 700 t-shirts. And then from there, it was really just grinding, like doing legit whatever it took to get my brand out there, to get the awareness out there, and to make it happen. My first Tony Robbins event, I spent my last $5,000, and I slept in my car at that event for like the first 2 days until somebody let me sleep in their hotel with them. But it was me just doing whatever it takes and put myself in positions to do legit whatever it took. So people look on social media and they like glamorize this entrepreneurship thing, and it's not pretty. Of course, after like now it's starting to get more, I guess, quote unquote, like prettier, where people are looking at me like, oh my God, you're doing this, you're meeting this person, and this is happening. And I'm being seen with different people and everything now, but it took so much to get to this point. And if I didn't have the belief in Kavon and the belief in not just Kavon, but my purpose, the overall mission, then it would not have worked. And I think me starting something that was in line with my purpose, my mission in life, is what made me not be able to give up, because it's bigger than me now. If I stop speaking, if I stop with this my purpose thing, then I'm letting down billions and billions of people that don't even know about this yet. So it's bigger than me. It's really became, after it sold in 7 different countries, I'm like, Kavon, it's bigger than you at this point. Like, it's bigger than you. There's lives impacted, and it's just so many testimonies and stories that people have reached out to me after seeing one of my speeches or seeing a t-shirt, and that challenged them to think about what their purpose is and everything. So yeah, I would say it's been just a lot of believing in Kavon and just guidance from God, the divine universe, whatever you believe in. A lot of guidance, a lot of belief in me, and it's gotten me to where I'm at.
Did you always have this entrepreneurial mindset when you were younger, or was this something that kind of came to you in your 20s?
I told you I sold drugs. No, I'm just playing. It's the highway.
No, it's true. That probably is like your start.
Legit. So like
Yeah.
as a kid, I did like the candy thing in class. I remember, it's so funny. It was like my first time getting like rated. I was in middle school, and you know how like they had like the locker shelves. So I bought locker shelves, and I had so much candy. Like I was the man in school for candy, right? And then I remember I'm in class like counting all my money and counting up all the change and everything. You know how a folder. So I set like a folder up like as a teepee, and behind it I'm like counting all the change and all the money and stuff, right? And then the principal like walks in and they call me out of class. And I walk into the hallway and there's just candy all on the floor. Like my locker's wide open. There's just candy everywhere. And it was like I got raided by the police or something at that age. And then I went on to, so my mom was like, I can't sell candy anymore. So then I started cutting grass, and then just one thing led to the next, and that's when I got involved in the streets. But I've legit always had an entrepreneurship spirit, like always figuring out how to hustle and how to like make some money for myself, selling candy and cutting grass and so many different things. I've always been like this.
I love it. I used to sell pencils in school.
When you look back, it's like the funniest things. Like I used to sell pencils. It's the funniest things that you.
I would sell them for 25 cents, and I would be so excited about the change that I would get.
No, legit. So yeah, I've always been like this. That's so funny.
Okay, so I'm curious, like, so you say that it's bigger than you now, right? But for people listening, especially in the beginning, like, what do you do when times are tough? And it's like, man, I just want to give up. Because we all have those moments where it's like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments. Is the difference is how long do you allow yourself to dwell in that moment? How long do you allow yourself to play around with that thought? So like anytime that thought crossed my mind, I would not even entertain it. It would just be kind of like floating by. And it was a couple things. That kept me going. So number one was just my belief in myself. Once I realized everything that I've been through and I survived, and I'm just realizing that like everybody doesn't survive like you, Kavon. Everybody hasn't had this opportunity. There's people that wish they could have a second chance of life how you have it, right? So having that from going to jail and getting out and everything, like having that experience, it put me in such a state of gratitude for what I had and the opportunity that I had in front of me. Because I remember that the opportunity could have been taken away. So I've always remembered that. Always following my purpose and knowing that I'm doing it for, I didn't make this t-shirt for money. I didn't say I wanted to be a speaker for money. I wanted to do it for the impact and contribution. And once you add enough value in the world, the money is just a byproduct of you added value. So like now with me closing a partnership and closing like may having like take my company like to multi-millions like ASAP and then looking to really grow it. This is just a byproduct of, so if my company is $1 billion company, that literally means like millions and billions of people have wrote in their t-shirt what their purpose is. That's massive value, massive contribution. So the money is just a byproduct of me adding value, right? So I've always remembered that just in those tough times, like Kavon, just add value, add contribution. And also what was like a hidden gem for me that gave me leverage was me being a felon. I can't just, even if I went and got a master's degree, it wouldn't matter because I'm still labeled a felon. And that just disqualifies me from jobs. So it gave me a mental edge that is like, Kavon, I got to go all in on myself. I have to go all in. Like either I go all in or I just go work a warehouse job. That's legit the only option. And like, so just to show you like how true that is, I'm going to explain it so the people who are listening would know, but I'm going to show you guys so you guys can see. It's like this. So I have a list. So I'm explaining it to everybody that's watching. I have a list that's framed on my desk. So I went to apply for a warehouse job. It was only like $19 an hour, right? And the lady see me, she wanted to hire me on the spot, but she came back and was like, we can't hire you because you're a felon. And she gave me a list, and it says a felon-friendly employers list, a felon-friendly employers list. And on this list is companies that she tells me that I should just go look to work at one of these companies and move up in. So like some of the companies on the list are like Applebee's and Chick-fil-A, Chili's, Chipotle, Dairy Queen, McDonald's, Dollar Tree, right? And she tells me like, you should go work at one of these jobs and just look to move up. And I'm not against any of these jobs if that's for you, but I just know that that wasn't for me. So I took that list and I framed it. And I wrote on the list that if you're not working towards your dreams, you'll be working towards theirs. And I keep this on my desk just as a reminder that it's like, everybody has options, but for me, that's just not an option. So if ever I want to like give up, or in that moment I'm like, yo, you know, I want to throw in the town, I just look over and look at the list. Like, okay, if you give up, then what are you going to do? Try to become like the manager of McDonald's and work there for 5 years to get a raise? Like, is that what you want for your life? And I'm not against anybody that does, but for me, that's just not what I wanted for my life. So I keep little things around me to remind myself of where I've been and how far I have yet to go, but to always remind myself that I can't give up. Like I have to keep going. So I don't even allow myself to play around with that thought.
I love that you talked about that label of felon, right? Because I think that there's maybe a lot of people that have faced felonies or have charges of some sort that have prevented them from maybe getting a job at some corporation.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it is all a mentality, and you know, some places aren't going to accept that, just point blank. Yeah. Right. And you know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you have to mentally get out of the state where other people can put you down for having that quote unquote label on you. And once you get out of that state, you can be unstoppable no matter what anyone says. You know, no matter if you can't get a job at XYZ company because they're discriminating against felons, or you know, whether you go towards that list that you got from that person who, you know, was obviously just trying to help, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, are these my only options? You know, and you really stepped out of that. So I think that's really important for people on the call that maybe have charges or felonies to hear you say. It's definitely
Thank you.
important.
And I want to take it a step further. It's important for everybody on this call, regardless. Like, society puts labels on us. It doesn't matter if you're stupid because you can't pass a test, or you're in special ed because of this, or you're gay, so you're this, you're lesbian, you're this, you're a felon, you're this, you're depressed, you're suicidal, you're whatever the label is. Don't let anybody define who you are by any type of label. Like, don't let society, people, peers put a label on you and allow yourself to hold yourself in a bubble due to that label. Oh, I can't do this because I am this. I can't be happy because I'm labeled depressed. Like, don't let anybody put a label on you, because the first time that you start allowing that, then you start conforming to that label. So I could have conformed to being a felon, right? I could have went back to the streets and did what society labels that a felon is going to do. I think the rate is like 70% or something like that, but like 70% of all felons eventually go back. So I mean, I could have done everything that to make that statistic the truth. We're all statistics. It's just about what part of the statistic do you want to be on? Do I want to be the 70% that goes back, or do I want to be the 30% that never went back? So it's like, don't allow yourself to like let people, society put a label on you. I mean, you define who you are. You choose your life. You define who you are. You make your choices. You move forward in life how you want to, not by how society is telling you you can or you should or you shouldn't.
Yeah. Do you feel like, you know, you mentioned that year while you were in jail, you felt pretty stagnant and you didn't feel like there was progress being made, which can be, you know, you're growing or dying, right? So that can be really disheartening. And at the same time, you know, you might have been, I don't know if you were, so correct me if I'm wrong, you might have been labeled in jail as, okay, you're a felon, this is what you did. Can you, if you can, I'm not sure if you want to, go into that experience of how you were treated? And second part of that would be maybe, you know, if you could change anything about that system, what would you change?
So when I was in jail, I wasn't in prison. I want everybody to be clear. It's a big difference from jail to prison. You go to prison after you've been convicted, and a lot of times you've had to be convicted for over a year, and you spend that time in prison. Different levels prison depending on the crime or how long you got. In jail, you're in jail waiting to be sentenced. So I spent a year in jail battling cases, and when I eventually got sentenced, I got sentenced to house arrest. So I wasn't in prison. It's a different conversation. But being in jail, it's not like movies and TV shows where it's just so bad and people are. It's not like that. I'm not gonna make it seem like it's like a nice place by far, but it's not what everybody automatically comes to people's mind when they think about jail and everything. For me, it it showed me how resourceful people really can be. Like in jail. So I'm with you, man. Like in jail, there's no microwaves. You can't turn lights on and lights off when you want to. You can't just call people. People can't call you. Like nobody can call you. Like so you have to call people. So and I've just seen people do the most resourceful. I've seen people make like sculptures out of like chip bags, and you can't imagine it right now. Like time, it's so crazy. My jail experience was first. I think that a lot of people are in jail that don't need to be in jail. A lot of people are mixed together in jail that don't need to be mixed. So like when I first went to jail, they put me in a block for murder and robbery, and I had nothing to do with murder or robbery at all. Like my cases were like dealing marijuana and getting caught with guns. Like that's all. I was getting caught with pounds of marijuana and guns. So why am I in a block with murderers and robbers, right? Like my bunkie was in there for murder and everything. So that's a huge problem because in Indianapolis there was an overflow. It got to the point where they started contracting to send inmates to other jails that weren't in other counties that weren't as full. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem. And I think that the system is set up. So I know you talked about in jail, but I want to kind of break right past that just for a second real quick. When I got out of jail and I got sentenced to house arrest, I was required to pay $14 a day on house arrest. So that, I think that is about $420 a month, right? So I've been in jail for a whole year. I've been labeled a felon, so it's hard to get a job. And then I'm required to pay $420 a month, or I got to go back to jail. And it's hard for me to go to a job interview because I have to get approved. I have to email my probation officer and ask her, like, can I go to this place at this certain amount of time? But a lot of times the people don't respond back to you for days. So if Jessica calls me tomorrow and say, hey, Kavon, I got your job application. Can you come in tomorrow for a job interview? And I'm like, yeah. And then I call my probation officer, but she doesn't get back to me until 3 days. Then it's like it sets people up for failure a lot.
I was just about to say that. It's like the system sets you up for failure, not for, getting better.
Not at all. Like not at all. So I could talk about this all day. It's a lot of things that set you up for failure. For me, when I was in jail, what it did for me positively, jail is not all bad. The biggest positive in jail is it allows people that have just been ripping and running, it allows them time to be still. And in that stillness, I was able to kind of really reflect back on my life of like, how did I get to where I was at? It allowed me nothing but time to think. Like there's nothing else to do but time to think. And for somebody that has that's listening to this, that maybe knows somebody in jail, I'll say the biggest thing that I tell people to do is in jail, even when I tell like friends that I used to know in jail to this day, is to number one, just reflect back on life. Like really think about the steps that led you to get to where you at. Because if you don't know how you got to where you're at, then it's bound to happen again. Number two is journal. Like let the journal be your relief. Like being in jail, there's so much stress built up. There's so much emotion. I'm in an open dorm with 50 other men. Open dorm is not where I was at. It wasn't a cell where it's just like you in a bunkie. I was at that at first, but then they moved me to it's called open dorm. So I'm in there with 50 other men. So just being around everybody is hectic. Sometimes you can't get any sleep. So I journaled a lot, right? And I had a lot of things going on with people betraying me on the outs and people stealing from me and just a lot of things. So I journaled a lot. And number 3, I read. I've had people send me books and just maximize my time reading and feeding my mind. Just because your body locked up doesn't mean your mind has to be. So I tell people that when I got out of jail, I seen more people mentally locked up than there was physically locked up. And there's a big difference. Physically locked up, you at least know that you're going to eventually get out. Like I knew, even if I got sentenced to 10 years, that, okay, I'm going to get out. Eventually, I have to get out. But mentally locked up, you might be locked up and not even notice it. So I tell people all the time, like, let the jail have your body, but don't let them have your mind. And allow yourself to use that time to, like, mentally free yourself. So that way, whenever your mind goes, your body follows. So when you get out, your body just as free as your mind. So
Those are such great tips just for anybody, even, journal, sit in stillness, and just reflect on your life. Anybody can, literally any entrepreneur, anybody can use those tips to enhance their life.
100%. It's still my morning routine to this day
Yeah.
of meditating and reading and getting fresh air. Because I remember I used to just want fresh air so bad when I was in jail.
Yeah.
So like it's my morning routine, like you said, for anybody.
And I also want to honor what you said about, when they labeled you as a felon, right? I love the fact that, you said don't ever let anybody basically put you in a box. And, instead of looking at it as a curse, you saw it as, your gift, right? Because there's a lot of people that
Right.
feel like, I don't have, this is it for me. And I know so many people, so many friends that are just like, they only think there's one route in life. They don't see outside of the box they've literally put themselves in their mind.
100%.
So that's definitely really powerful. So, sort of like switching gears a little bit, because we've talked so much about, your past and like all of your learnings and things like that. Like what's going on for you now? I know you mentioned the huge partnership. Like what are your plans for the future? What's next for Kavon, for my purposes?
So
And anything.
So yeah, the partnership is big. It actually, part of it came from when I went to Tony Robbins Business Mastery. I don't know if you knew this, but I won Business Mastery. So I had to get up on stage. Yeah, I had to get up on stage and speak with Tony and speak alongside Tony Robbins. It was amazing. Me and my team, we won, and we had 1,000. We ordered. So for anybody that doesn't know, it's a 5-day event. It's about 3,000 people, like top business people from all over the world, right? The ticket for that event is like 10,000 to be able to go to that event. 5,000 if you catch it on sale. So and it gets really competitive. So like day one, Tony Robbins tells you to break off in teams of 8 and see which team can add the most value to the room. So people come with like posters and they come with gifts, like things to sell, and people come ready because they already know what's going to happen. And they come with their foundations to raise money for their foundation. So make a long story short, I got in a team of people and we all have legit no idea what to do. We ordered 1,000 My Purpose t-shirts. They seen my t-shirt, they loved it, and it was going to add value to the room. So we ordered the t-shirt. The event starts on Saturday. It's over on Wednesday. And we didn't get the t-shirt until Tuesday night, and the event's over Wednesday night. So it was insane. A long story behind that. But within 24 hours, we sold 1,000 t-shirts. It was strictly donation based. So some people were donating $5,000 for one t-shirt and $1,000 for a t-shirt. It was crazy. We raised around $25,000 in 24 hours. And we had pink My Purpose t-shirts. So the whole room was lit up pink. Tony comes off stage, reading people t-shirts. It was amazing. And we won, and he matched us money. So we raised enough money with his matching us to send 70 kids to his program to UPWs over the course of this year and kind of next year. So we took 12 people to LA, to UPW, Unleash the Power Within in LA that just passed. It was like a 14-year-old, a 16, 17-year-old, 18, 19. It was so beautiful. The most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. So moving forward, me and my team still have more kids to take this year. So I'm like definitely looking forward to that. That's what lights me up, to see what these kids, to see the breakthroughs that these kids made. So one of the girls that was in our group, she was just in like a really troubled spot, has been to like different disciplinary homes and everything. And she went to Tony Robbins, had her breakthrough, and she just messaged me last night. And this past weekend, she gave a speech at one of the disciplinary homes that she was staying at, to the kids there, and like telling them how she made her change and how they could do better and everything, right? And she like sent me the speech. It was so beautiful. So like that's what life is to me. That's what fulfills me. So moving forward, it's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of contribution. I have to get a foundation in place. With this deal, after I partner up with this deal, then it's go time for that, man. It's so much to do with that. It's so much to do with scaling this business. So that's major, and different speaking opportunities. I have a lot of other speaking engagements coming up, and leaving the country. This is the first time this year that I've been able to leave this is the first time this year that I've legally been able to leave the state of Indiana for the past 5 years. Yeah, so like going to all the Tony Robbins events last year, I was on probation. Like technically I wasn't supposed to be there. I was like really jumping out on the risk. I just got off probation at the beginning of this year. So now I'm going to Dominican Republic for 7 days for my birthday in like 3 weeks. And so yeah, I plan to leave the country like 3 times this year. So a lot of traveling, a lot of giving back, and a lot of growing my business. And yeah, that sums it up.
Oh, that's amazing. Happy early birthday. Or did it pass already?
No, it's on May 11th. May 11th.
Oh, okay.
I turned
Taurus.
25.
Taurus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quarter life. That's amazing. That's so cool. I've never been to Dominican Republic. So like some fun questions. Jess, do you have any fun questions?
Yeah, I mean, we already heard a little bit about your morning routine, and I always ask people about that. But do you have something? I know we kind of loosely talked about it, but is there like a specific? I know you mentioned, meditation, fresh air. Is there something that you do every single morning that's kind of like boom, 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 like you're priming?
Every single morning when my alarm goes off, I don't check my phone for the first hour. I don't check any text messages, social media, nothing. It trains your brain. When you check things, it trains your brain to be reactive, because you start replying to people, and you haven't even like brushed your teeth, and you're like replying to the demands of everybody else. So I don't check my phone, right? But I go to YouTube and I put on like a motivational compilation. That's the first thing I do before I'm out of my bed. I roll over and hit the alarm. Actually, I have it's funny though. It's called a barcode scanner or barcode alarm on the iPhone. And it's where, in order for your alarm to go off, you have to scan the barcode. You have to scan like a specific barcode. Like you have, so I took like a piece of like a water bottle, the barcode on a water bottle, and I taped it to my wall in the bathroom. So when my alarm goes off, I have to like get up and go to the barcode in my bathroom and scan it in order for the alarm to go off. So I can't like stay in bed.
I've never heard of that.
That's amazing.
You know what that is?
Yeah, tell us where we could find that.
Yeah, so on iPhone it's called like barcode alarm. If you type in like barcode alarm, something will pop up. So for those that are like hard to get out of bed, the alarm won't go off. And they modified the system now. They just had an upgrade like a week ago. So it used to be like when the alarm goes off, I hit like the silent button on my iPhone to like dim the noise, and it would cut it out. But like now, even if you hit that button, the alarm doesn't stop. So they made it to where like you have to get out your bed and hit that alarm. So I hit the alarm and I put on something motivational every time, just to feed my mind with positivity in the morning. There's something called Earl Nightingale, the greatest secret in the world, by Earl Nightingale. It's like 30 minutes, and it's powerful. I listen to that all the time, and I just listen to other motivational things. Take a shower, get some fresh air. I go out, get some fresh air, and do 3 things I'm grateful for. Do three things I'm grateful for every morning while getting fresh air. Just allow myself to tap into that gratitude. I think that's where there's something called like flow state. Like people think that hard work is, oh, if you work hard, you'll be successful. And that's just not true. There's something called flow state. We know people that work 2-3 hour jobs and they work hard as hell, but they're not successful by their standards nor probably your standards. So hard work doesn't get it all. There's something called flow state, and that's just you being in oneness with whatever that higher power is to you, that divine, right? So, and gratitude is the easiest way to tap into that flow state and everything. So I get fresh air. I say like 3 things I'm grateful for. I meditate, and I say like 3 things I'm grateful for. Again, while I meditate, I think of 3 things that excite me. So I think about like speaking in front of people. I think about when I'm gonna be on Forbes. I just think about so much, right? And yeah, and then I might listen to like some inspiring type of music, regardless if it's like something like just any type of music, like Kygo, or it could be gospel, or just whatever like inspires you. Everybody has like a different song that inspires them. So I listen to that, and then I check messages and eat food and stuff. But I like keep that first hour to like strictly me time.
What's some advice you'd give your younger self?
Some advice I'll give my younger self: yo, keep doing everything you're doing. Like fuck up. Like, I wouldn't change anything in my life. So like I guess a better question would be like, what advice would I give to somebody else? Because like I wouldn't change not a day, not a second of my life. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today. And it might sound so crazy, like, so you'll get shot again, you'll go to jail. I would literally do everything exactly over again. I would not change not one thing. And so I like wouldn't even want to go back and talk to my younger self, because I feel like it would just like mess up something. I don't know. I might not be who I am today. I don't know. So, but to another younger person, what I'll tell them is to, number one, learn who the real you is. Like, be authentic. I didn't start being the authentic Kavon until, like, it wasn't really until I got off of house arrest and went to Tony Robbins that I really found myself and started allowing myself to be the true version of myself. So I tell people is that it doesn't matter like what your friends think about you. They're not going to be your friends in like 5 years. It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks about you. Like, learn your true self, learn your authentic self, and dream big. Dream big. None of us are given dreams that we don't have the power within to bring into fruition. Whatever dream vision that you have for yourself, like, you have the power to bring that into fruition, to make it a reality. That's why everybody doesn't have the same dreams. Everybody doesn't have a vision of like speaking in front of thousands of people. Everybody doesn't have that. Other people might like have a vision of saving all the dolphins in the world. I don't know. But like, there's a reason that you have that vision, and only you could bring that vision into light. And don't allow anybody to tell you that your dreams are crazy. Like, first of all, allow people to tell you that. If people are not calling you crazy, then you're not on the right track. Like, I want so many people to be like, yo, what? You think you're going to speak in front of 10,000 people with Tony Robbins? You think that you're going to be on Forbes 30 under 30? Like, you think this? I'm like, yeah. When they call me crazy, I'm like, whew, I'm on to something. Like, I'm on the right track. Like, it's like when a lot of people start believing in me, I'm like, whew, maybe I gotta talk about inspiring trillions of people or something. Like, maybe I'm playing too small. Like, too many people believe in it. Like dream big, dream like big as fuck, and believe in it. And don't allow anybody to tell you what you can't do. Like, don't listen to the opinions of others. I don't care if it's your mom telling you to go to school. I don't care if it's society telling you you can't be anything if you don't have a degree. I don't care if it's your dad. I don't care who it is. I promise you that once you follow your heart and like shit start coming into reality, all those people are going to be right next to you being like, oh my God, I believed in you so much. Like, I knew you were going to do it. Right. Like, my mom was like mad as hell when I told her that I wasn't finishing college. She was like mad as fuck. Right. But like, now that like a big deal is on the table and other things are going on, and she's like, oh, I've always believed in you, which she always did. I love my mama to death. Right. But she didn't see my vision. She always supported me. She always supported me, but she didn't see my vision how I seen it. And she didn't. But the best thing about life is it's not for everybody to see your vision how you see it. Like, your vision is your vision. It's not your best friend's. Like, so stop wanting to start a business and you ask your best friend advice and they tell you it's stupid and you don't do it. Like, that vision is not theirs. They're not your brothers and everything. So I'll tell any young person, number one, find your authentic self, allow yourself to be vulnerable. And number two, like, yo, whatever vision, dreams that you have, like, pursue it. It's not your mom's, it's not your best friend. So, like, stop waiting for people to support you.
So I wanted to maybe tap into a vulnerable moment in your life that maybe set you up for future success, or a moment that you felt most vulnerable that that you want to share.
Oh man, like, being vulnerable is what led me to the person I am now. So I was at Tony Robbins event, and for people who don't know, it's the event that I was at. It was 5,000 people. It's one of the Tony Robbins like most premier event. The ticket for that event is $5,000 when it's on sale. Like, I bought it on sale and spent my last money to get there, right? So I get to Tony Robbins event, and I'm a young African American kid, and it's normally typically just like middle age, older age, like Caucasians. That's like it, right? So I'm like this young black kid, right? And it's just like middle age Caucasians, and I'm just like, I've never heard any of that music before. They're like fist pumping, they're massaging each other. Like, I'm like, what the hell did I like get myself into? So I'm like, yo, like, this just, I don't know. So in my mind, I was like, people are going to judge me. That people are going to judge me. Like, I'm a young black kid. I've never heard any of this music. They're dancing and they're massaging men, like men massaging men.
They didn't have Pitbull for you?
No. I'm like, never heard. Like, I can legit maybe say like 2 songs that I might have heard because I've like played like Guitar Hero before or something, right? Like, or I've like heard from like a movie. But as far as like my homies just like, yo, let me play that song in the car, like, I've never, no, it wasn't like that.
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing so hard I'm crying right now. Because
I mean, you know, when you see the guys at those events and they like freak out because, especially at Business Mastery, when he's like, you know, jump up and down and give each other massages, and the people are coming there for business, they've never been to a Tony event, and they're like looking around like, where the fuck did I get? Where am I?
Exactly. So that's kind of how I was, right? And so at that time, I'm like, I just got off a house arrest like 2 weeks ago. And I'm at this event. I'm like sleeping in my car. So it's like a lot going on at that time, right? And I was just like, I don't want to share my story because people are going to judge me. So people always, especially at Date with Destiny, since it's like one of his most premier, like, life-changing events, people always ask like, oh, what brought you here? Because a lot of times, like, people are at a real pivotal moment in their life, like, and it's a lot of suicidal people there. So people ask like, what brought you here? And so Tony Robbins had a Netflix special called I'm Not Your Guru. I'm like promoting Tony so hard right now. And like, he's so cool. Go check it out. I'm not getting paid for any of this. I didn't like promote. I didn't be on his team, right? I promote Tony all the time. But so when people ask me what I was there for, I was like, oh, I just watched like the Netflix special. That's what brought me here. But like, typically it has to be more than that. Like, you're not going to spend $5,000 and be like, oh, I watched it on Netflix. It's cool. Let me spend my last $1,000 to sleep in my car to go there. Like, that just doesn't make sense. But people just go along with it, right? Oh yeah, me too. So I'm like, cool. So I didn't share my story with anybody. But like on day 3, Tony talked about limitations. And he talked about limitations on your mind and how each one of us, even Tony Robbins himself, everybody in this world has some type of limitation. Everybody else has some type of blinders that it's like glasses that you see a certain way through these glasses, but once you take them off, you see differently. So I had like glasses and stuff on, and Tony talked about limitations, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if this is a limitation on my mind. Like, I wonder if me saying people are going to judge me is a limitation. So I'm like, you know what? I paid $5,000. Like, let me test this guy philosophy out. So like, let me share my story with somebody and see if like they judge me, type of thing, right? So Tony talks about proximity. Like, proximity is power. And so especially at the conference, the people that sit all the way like in the front, they pay the most money. And for Tony Robbins, this is platinum partnership type of people that pay like $100,000 a year to be part of his inner circle. So I just go down there and just start shaking my hands, introducing people and everything. And somebody came up to me. It's like the second person I'm talking to. Somebody tapped me on my shoulder, and I turned around. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I was like, so instead of giving them like the BS story that I watched Netflix and I chose to travel across the world and sleep in my car, I was like, I told him like, oh, like this is everything I've been. I started telling him my story. And in the middle of it, he's like, stop. And I'm like, huh? He's like, stop. He was like, you say you want to use your story to inspire millions, right? I'm like, yeah. He was like, well, let me record you telling your story. I'm Tony Robbins' top videographer of this event. Like, he's the top videographer. Like, let me record you telling your story. So he recorded it. He put it on like social media and stuff, and it got like thousands of views. And like people from all over the world started hitting me up and giving me their testimony. Like girls that like were in prostitution or just getting out of prostitution, like being molested, like men that were gay, just like all type of people just hitting me up because they seen me be vulnerable. So they knew that I wasn't going to judge them. So I gave them. There's a quote. It's a longer quote, but part of the quote it says, when you let your light shine, you unconsciously give others the permission to do the same. So by me being vulnerable, sharing my story for the first time, and I seen how I was able to impact those people, that's when I start living in authenticity, vulnerability, and like transparency. That's why I share my story, and I'm like an open book these days. So yeah, like being vulnerable is what started me on this path. Like I had to choose to be vulnerable to share my story and everything that came along with that. But I noticed that it gave power to so many people that I would be robbing people. And anybody listening to this also, like if you have been through something and you made it past that, or you might still be stuck in that, like sharing your truth, you're going to free so many other people and you're going to free yourself. And so Gary Vee says like it's people spend energy. I was spending energy playing defense, trying to guard my past, that it took away some of my energy from playing offense towards my future. So it's like once I stopped spending that much energy trying to hide my past and everything, and I like allow myself to be vulnerable, like forget it, I'm an open book, ask me anything, I don't care. And I start like putting that energy towards offense. That's why these last 16 months has been life changing. So definitely, I encourage vulnerability so much.
And how beautiful that moment that you decided that you were going to share your story. It happened to be the Tony Robbins videographer, like that was meant to happen. Your story was meant to be shared, and it was shared, and it's, obviously led you on this path. So what, just like a divine connection of what was meant to be.
Like talk about synchronicity,
That's like sums up my last year and a half. I just been divine guidance, synchronicity. There's no way I could be to where I'm at just off of myself. I've met too many people. I've had too many connections. There's like no way that I could be here if it was just off of me. There's a divine force that's working in my life because I'm following my purpose and I'm working towards not myself, but giving back and everything. That divine connection, God, universe just keeps aligning me with the people, places, and times that I need to be in. So it's so beautiful when you realize that, like Tony says, like life's happening for you, not to you, and that there's something greater working for you, with you, to help guide you to where you need to be. So yeah.
That's amazing. I don't normally put people on the spot with this question, but you mentioned earlier that you liked to read and that you were reading to pass some of your time while you were in jail. So I'm just curious, currently, what is the last book that you read, or the book that you've most gifted to other people that you would want to recommend for the listeners, book or book?
So the book that I'm reading right now is Think and Grow Rich. I've read it. I've listened to the audio multiple times, but I've never like read the physical copy. So I wanted to reread the physical copy so I could like highlight things and go back in it. My top 3 books that I would say is The Alchemist. The Alchemist. I love it. Beautiful book. Probably Think and Grow Rich. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. And I'll put this top 3. How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those 3 books.
That's the most popular book of all time. Dale
Yeah.
Carnegie.
All great
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's those 3 books. Like, I think if you master, like, absolutely. So I kind of believe in. So I don't know. This is a concept that I'm taking on kind of now. It's like, stop reading so many books and just like master a book. Like, I don't want to aim to read. I was looking to read like a book a week, right? And I have so many books, but then I read the book and I forget like a lot of what it said in the book. So I was like, let me like master a book. I think if you master, well, I mean, you can't really master The Alchemist. That's just like mastering being in flow type of thing, right? But I think like if you master the Think and Grow Rich and like How to Win Friends and Influence People and just really like apply those principles and everything. The first thing that actually got me into personal development was watching The Secret on Netflix. I recommend everybody, if you haven't seen it, go to Netflix, watch The Secret. It's how it works. I made a lot of money in the streets. It works. And I just had to use it to reach it. I watched it when I was like 17. And yeah, I used it and it worked. So I know it works. So they also have the book. So I tell people to go look at that too. But yeah, around like those 3-4 type of items are life changing. For me, it's been. Oh, and people talk about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. But Napoleon Hill has a book that a lot of people haven't heard. Huh?
Outwitting the Devil?
Oh my God, yes. Yes. That's what I was just about to say. A lot of people don't know about Outwitting the Devil.
Such a good book.
Oh my God, so powerful.
I just knew you were going to say that. I was like, he's thinking of Outwitting the Devil.
Oh my God, so powerful. That and Think and Grow Rich are like close right by each other. I can't even really pick one over the other. Like, look at Outwitting the Devil. It's like it's so funny how little that book is talked about, at least in my world. I've heard everybody talks about Think and Grow Rich, but people don't really talk about Outwitting the Devil. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. So I tell people to go check that out too. And the audio for that is free on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's a great book.
So we've got a lot of sponsors that you're promoting. So Netflix, if you're listening, YouTube, Tony,
Yeah,
you can be our advertisers for this show. Thanks.
like legit, I'm promoting everybody. But yeah, I believe in like a lot of people learn different things, and they like try to not give credit to where they learned it from. Like, this didn't all come from me. Like, I learned this from places. So anytime, like, if you told me a quote, Jessica, and I put it on like social media, I would like be like, yo, shout out Jessica for this quote. Like I would shout people out. I'm not going to just listen to it and just act like it was me and I'm just all wise. So,
that's my pet peeve. So I appreciate that you do that, because it's my pet peeve when people will, and you hear all the time that people will take a quote from Tony Robbins. I hear CEOs like making big speeches and doing it all the time. And I'm like, well, I'm obsessed with Tony Robbins and I know that he said that and you did not. So that is not your quote,
Hey.
So people know. And I mean, I just appreciate that you're just real and raw with it. I'm sure you have your own quotes that you can put your name next to, you know what I mean? So it's like you make your own mark, and I appreciate that you shout people out. It's awesome. So another funny question that I love asking people is just, is there anything that you feel is esoteric or silly or something that that you don't tell people about a lot, that you spend an absurd amount of money on, or like just like a habit or an investment that you make that's silly, but it's improved your life and you love it, so you do it anyways?
I mean, I spend an absurd amount of money on personal development. Like going to these. Have you been to any of Tony events? You're crazy enough to spend an absurd amount of money on these events. So yeah, I used to spend a lot of money on Jordans, like Jordan the shoes. I had like 60 pair. That's actually what helped me get the Tony Robbins events. I sold like 20 pair. Like, I started selling them, like legit. I started selling those to get the Tony Robbins. So I don't have that. I still have a lot of them, but even like when I moved to New York, I like boxed them all up and just left them like in my mom's house. I like took them over there and just like left them in her basement because I don't really care about Jordans anymore. I have like 2 pair of shoes that I wear now. So yeah, I guess that new obsession is like events and just personal development. Like, yeah, I went broke over going to Tony events so many times, and it's been the best way to go broke in my life. Like, it's not even. I think I invest in stuff now that I make sure I get an ROI. So if I spend my last like that $5,000 that I went to Tony Robbins event, like everybody called me crazy. My brother's like, "Yo, give me $1,000. I'll call you every day and motivate you." Like, like people were like, "Why would you spend $5,000?" But that was literally, and even though it was my last dollars, it was the best investment that I ever made in my life. So that's my new silly thing. I think people see me at this event, but people really don't realize of how expensive these events are. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's funny. That was like my thing too for like a year, was like all personal development. Like I just kept going and going. And then it was like, now I'm like, you know, some of my friends are like, you spend $7 on a juice. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'll spend $7. I'm like, it's my health. You know, you spend you spend $15 on a cocktail. I'll spend $7 on a juice. You know, I don't judge you, you know, like do what you gotta do. But, thank you so much for like coming on and sharing your story and like inspiring our listeners and just being like a presence of, you know, just a beacon of light, you know, and just so people know, where can people find you? And so we make sure that
you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Kavon Massenburg, KAVON MASSENBURG.
KavonMassenburg.com if you want to check out some more of my speaking. I have videos on there about speaking. That's where you could book me at. And that's also where the My Purpose t-shirt is. So go to KavonMassenburg.com, support, get yourself a My Purpose t-shirt, and show the world what your purpose is. Like, allow yourself. That's why I created this shirt that we talked about, vulnerable and bold. How you guys show is allow yourself to be vulnerable. It's like right on your t-shirt what your purpose is and declare it to the world. So go check it out.
Thank you for listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast. For more information on today's speaker, please visit us at boldandvulnerablepodcast.com.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Let's keep spreading the love by being bold and vulnerable. Thank you. We love you.